Back here on the Tider Insider TV Signing Day Special, brought to you by Your Way Furniture. Coming to you live from Bryant-Denny Stadium. Inside, the Red Elephant Club members are beginning to gather for today's Signing Day party. Nick Saban will address the crowd later on this afternoon. He'll also address the media coming up at the top of the hour, 4 o'clock. We'll carry that press conference for you live. So we've got that to look forward to. And in the meantime, you got Rodney and I. We'll be with you up until Nick Saban takes to the podium. Let's continue to talk about some of the big-name recruits from this year's signing class. There are a lot of them, Rodney, but they don't get much bigger than this young man. T.J. Yeldon from Daphne High School, 6'1", 6'2", 210 pounds. He committed to Auburn, was committed to the Tigers for a while, switched to Alabama in December, graduated high school, is already enrolled, and he will take part in spring practice and off-season conditioning. Here's what Yeldon had to say about his decision and the impact he might make as a Bama freshman.
To the place that was best for me, you know, I feel great at Alabama. I mean, I love it up there. I enrolled in classes, pretty fun with all the other guys, so I'm just having fun. I think I'll be primary running back, but you know, I haven't really talked to we haven't got an OC. Well, we just got an OC, so you know, I haven't really talked to him. I've been working out a little bit and going to class, so I mean, I'm gonna try my best to get in the rotation for the season.
Yeldon made those comments earlier this month in Montgomery when he was being honored as the state's Mr. Football. Rodney, let's talk about this young man. Alabama is a running back-driven offense, and, man, this guy's got some big-time skills. Maybe a little different type back than Richardson and Ingram in terms of size, but impact-wise, he could be very similar.
Well, you look at him right now, Gary, he's already up to 215. A guy that's going to get bigger, probably play at 225 plus, so he is going to have some size, and you see his athleticism right there with the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, make things happen after the catch, and you know, he's a great runner as well. So, you know, again, there's times when you look at him, he reminds you of Bobby Humphrey. He's got that lean build, and again, huge pickup from the standpoint of Alabama really needed to get another back to kind of carry on that tradition that they've got going here with the two-back system with Ingram and Richardson, and then Richardson and Lacey, and of course they've got a stable here, but Yeldon certainly will have an opportunity to play really early next year.
You know, certainly the Alabama coaches deserve credit for getting him to switch from Auburn, but you know a guy that might have been his top recruiter? His Daphne teammate, Ryan Anderson. And Anderson, don't think he's just the recruiter for Yeldon. This is a great player in his own right. You know, the thing that's interesting about him, Rodney, a little bit under the radar when Alabama took his commitment, then he just exploded onto the scene with an incredible senior season. You know, a lot of people have compared him to Courtney Upshaw. He certainly looks like he has the physical skills to play that type of role. Your thoughts on Ryan Anderson?
You know, I talked to Daphne assistant Mike Vickery well over a year ago about Ryan Anderson. He talked about they were going to stand him up in spring practice and allow schools to see him as that Courtney Upshaw type player, and he felt like that once they had that opportunity, his stock would go through the roof, and it certainly did. But Alabama was the first school in there, and they really wanted Ryan Anderson, got in on him early, and they nabbed him. And again, you know, Gary, he might be the best at his position in the country. They talk about Channing Ward and some other guys around the country that are really outstanding prospects. Ryan Anderson is right there with them.
Anderson was committed to Alabama for a long time, but no one was committed longer than the next young man we're going to talk about. 5-star safety wide receiver Eddie Williams out of Panama City Beach, Florida. Played wide receiver, safety in high school, even took some snaps at quarterback. And the question now, Rodney, is what side of the ball is he going to play at Alabama?
Well, he's going to start out on offense at wide receiver, Gary. You look at his size, he's 6'3.5", 210 pounds, great athlete. He'll give Alabama that big target, that big athletic target that they haven't had since Julio. And again, you mentioned his as a safety. He's right there with Landon Collins in terms of his ability at that position. But I think with Alabama's need at wide receiver, the best spot for Eddie to start out is wide receiver.
How great, though, is it, Rodney? And Alabama's got several of these guys, great athletes, proven football players, but you can look at them at different spots on your football team, really, like you said, where there's a need. They've got several guys that can play different places.
Well, and that's one thing Nick Saban has emphasized, Gary, throughout his recruiting is versatility. He started it from the very beginning, guys that could play multiple positions or change positions. You know, you mentioned Landon Collins earlier. Certainly he's going to be a safety, but he is a dynamite running back. Yeah. That's just an example of the kind of versatility that Nick Saban looks for. You look at T.J. Yeldon. Not only is he a great running back, he's a guy that has tremendous hands. You know, he has kind of a body like a wide receiver in some respects, and again, mention the hands. that versatility, guys that can play more positions, make them more valuable to your football team.
Still to come on the Tider Insider Signing Day Special, brought to you by Your Way Furniture. We'll talk about the in-state guys. We talked about a couple of them. We'll talk about all of them, including one from West Alabama. Darren Lake of Sumter Central High School committed to Alabama back in June. And we'll also take our cameras north to Madison. That's where Reggie Ragland, outstanding linebacker, is from. You see what happened today in Madison. He signed with Alabama. We'll have that and much more coming up on this Tider Insider TV Signing Day Special, brought to you by Your Way Furniture, live from Bryant-Denny Stadium. And welcome back to the Tider Insider Signing Day Special, brought to you by Your Way Furniture, where customer satisfaction is always our #1 priority. Well, Rodney, Nick Saban recruits nationwide. He goes after the best, but everything still starts right here in Alabama. And once again, he's defended his home turf very well. Most of the top players in state signing with the Crimson Tide. Let's talk about one that is just from right down the road. And at Sumter Central High School, big Darren Lake signing this afternoon with Alabama. Look at that young man, 6'3", around 343 pounds.
Does he not remind you of Anthony Bryant?
I mean, he's a big guy, and he told us he's excited to be rolling with the Tide. And, let's talk about him as a football player for just a moment. He may have to redshirt. He's raw, but, man, he's got all the physical numbers that you look at.
Gary, no one really knew.
Look at the house, too.
Yeah, nobody really knew about Darren Lake until last summer. He came to Alabama's camp. He had a great camp, got an immediate offer, committed on the spot to Alabama. The only other school that was recruiting him was Lance Thompson, now at Alabama, right, when he was at Tennessee. So, again, that was a big pickup for Alabama. But, you talk to some of the guys that have competed against him in these camps, some of the top offensive linemen in the country, and you ask them their thoughts on Darren Lake. And they had also competed against guys like Eddie Goldman, who's considered the premier defensive lineman in the country. And they said Darren Lake's definitely in his class, maybe even better.
Wow.
But, again, you mentioned how raw he is. But he comes to a place where he's going to be really well developed. Chris Rump does a great job with his defensive linemen. I think Darren Lake's got a bright future.
And our Todd Hoyer just back from Sumter Central High School. That's Sumter County and Livingston High Schools combined this year. And, those folks down there, it's a rural community. They are thrilled to be sending Darren Lake on to the University of Alabama, and he's thrilled to be part of the Tide. Meanwhile, in North Alabama, linebacker Reggie Ragland had been committed for some time, one of the Tide's first commitments. He officially became a member of the Crimson Tide when he faxed in his letter of intent this morning. Later in the afternoon, he held a signing ceremony. That's what a lot of these guys did. They signed in the morning, faxed in, and then held signing ceremonies. 6'3", 240, great basketball player. I tell you that because those guys that can play basketball, are good athletes. But he didn't choose Alabama just because of the football program.
I want to establish myself as one of the dominant linebackers down there for the class coming in. If I do what I have to do and come in and play, learn the system, get in the weight room, I should have a great chance of playing. Coach Saban cares about the football side, but he doesn't. He just want to make sure that when they're done with their system, that they become great men afterwards, become great husbands and all that stuff.
All right, let's take a look at the in-state signees. We've already talked about most of these guys. Darius Philon not signing as of yet, but let's talk about Tyler Hayes from down the road in Thomasville. This is a guy that's one of those we talked about, outstanding athletes, versatile.
Super running back in high school. Gary could play safety, could play outside linebacker. Again, a lot of versatility. We talked about Darren Lake. Alphonse Taylor's a kid that's already here in school, has played on the offensive line, will probably be a nose tackle here at Alabama. Nick Saban loves those big guys in his 3-4 defense on the nose. He's about 6'4", 330 pounds. Reggie Ragland, we just talked about him. Again, versatility, a guy that could play linebacker, could play H-back, and as you mentioned, a tremendous athlete on the basketball court.
All right, well, still to come, Nick Saban meets the media. We'll bring it to you live and in its entirety. Also ahead, we'll talk about the man under center in this class. What does quarterback Alec Morris from Allen, Texas bring to the Tide? You're watching the Tider Insider TV Signing Day Special, brought to you by Your Way Furniture, and we'll be back with more. Stay with us.